right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Ask Aansa Live. My name is Amal. I'm a Siko Sikao Sati Support Officer. And today I have with me Aansa, who will introduce herself. Please, Aansa, floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I am Aansa, and I'm currently working as a senior program officer and trainer at Cities for Children. Today, we are going to talk about a very important issue on corporal punishment, and I'm very excited to engage with all of you about this very important conversation.
So please, as we're talking through, I'll start us off, but if anybody has any questions or comments, please do comment below and we'll get to as many of them as we can. So Anza, I wanted to start by asking you what kind of inspired you to get involved with this kind of work. Why do you think it's necessary? So if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. I would really like to share that like back 3 years ago, I have been working in a government school in a teaching capacity where I was working very closely with 200 kids. I have seen corporal punishment being used there, and I have also seen the negative impact of it on both the children, and I have also seen the stress and the frustration which is making teachers suffer a lot. At that time, I think I did not have a very solid solution for this kind of the problem. I tried to hold a few conversations with the teachers and the management, but this basically stemmed from there. That was the point when I decided that this is something I want to really work on, and then I joined Series for Children after that, and Series for Children gave me a really great platform to work through this initiative, and in almost like 1.5 last year. We have been engaging with more than 400 teachers in almost 70 plus schools. We have worked very closely with them, and I would be sharing some of the insight from those trainings, those conversations, and those discussions I have had with the teachers in that capacity.
So on that front, because you conduct all these trainings, you also create a lot of materials for these trainings, from workshops to videos to other kinds of things. So could you tell us a little bit about what those materials are and how they resonate with the teachers that you're working with and with the parents that you're working with as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I would say I've worked very closely with the teachers, and for a very smaller part, we have been trying to design some trainings for the parents as well. For the teacher training part, we have been majorly focusing on raising the awareness by talking about how corporal punishment could have drastic negative mental and the physical and the emotional effects on the students. I have seen a lot of the students suffering from this because they couldn't be treated in a very friendly environment. So that is one thing we talk about, and the another very important thing is that whenever we ask teachers to not use the corporal punishment, one of the most important question was, okay, fine, legislation is there, all of the orders to not use the corporal punishment is there, but we have never heard of any support or any guidance on what alternative options we could actually use, like what are the some alternatives there which would enable us to discipline the kids, discipline the students without using the corporal punishment. So we did design, after a lot of research, we did design classroom management plans, sample classroom management plans basically, for the teachers, so that they could have a look and they could create a tailored plan specifically for their classrooms as well. So that's something we also talk about. And then we do talk about school level changes as well, because I believe that corporal punishment is a very old issue and it cannot be solved on the school levels only. We need everyone on board, like the parents, the teachers, students, everyone. So we try to talk about the school level approach as well, like how can we actually create the disciplinary committees, how can they report the incident, how could there be a incident reporting form which they can use to report such kind of the incidences as well. So that's something we talk about.
And so amongst the conversations you have about kind of classroom management plans, has there been any particular plan that stuck out to you when you were visiting a school and a teacher came up with something you thought was interesting?
I think um, most of our teachers, they are already doing something in their classroom. Sometimes it's like maybe like the playful activities, how to engage the kids. Maybe one thing is that they need more consistency with it. But I feel like whenever we are designing any such kind of the trainings or any discussions or conversation, one must thing we need to have is to have that kind of the empathy and understanding for the teachers, to try to understand their burdens, their academic pressure, the burden of doing so many things at the same time as well. So most of the time we try to provide them with the sample plans, and then we ask them to like sit in the group and create a plan which they think would work out best in their context with their students. So that is something we majorly focuses on.
Right. And so with teachers, you're saying like obviously teachers have a lot of work to do on a day-to-day basis, but are there any like particular common challenges that come up when you try and implement this kind of Maar Pyaar?
So I would say throughout these training sessions and all of the research we have conducted so far, one thing which stood out for me was that we have included this one questions in our survey form, which we often ask the teachers who are going to be the part of the trainings. We do ask them to share any example of the corporal punishment if they have ever faced it from their own childhood, and they do share it. Most of the time they do have a lot to say about that. And the most interesting fact is, no matter how long ago it happened, whether it was like 20 years ago happening, like the 30 years ago, they do remember even the minor details of it, like in which grade they were when that corporal punishment was being used with them, in which subject teacher were using that corporal punishment, and how did it actually made them feel. Were they humiliated? Were they feeling like they haven't been acknowledged well, or what? So I believe that the corporal punishment has a very long lasting negative impact. Most of the time we are consciously thinking about it, and sometimes unconsciously it is just shaping our personality as well. And sometimes it is also making us become the part of that cycle of the violence as well. Like our teachers use the corporal punishment, try to discipline us, and we try to do the same with the generations coming ahead. So that is something which has been very interesting for me so far.
No, that is very interesting. And it's also like on that front, once you have those conversations with them there, I imagine they're very difficult conversations for them also to come in and like share those kinds of things. So would you say like those conversations help when it comes to trying to build a mindset that moves away from, you know, corporal punishment works and it works for me? What parts of the training are most effective for helping move away from that?
I would just say that in most of the conversation I have had with the teachers, they usually said, and they often said that, oh, I was being punished when I was a kid. And I think that helped me to get the good grades and to stay on the task and to complete the task as well. And I do acknowledge that maybe they were being punished, or they were being slapped, and after that they started doing the work. But at the same time, I believe the actual factor which helped them to stay on the task after that whole process of going through the corporal punishment wasn't actually like seeing your mistake, realizing what did you do wrong, and having the intention of doing it correct. It was coming from that fear which corporal punishment was actually causing. So they have had that fear in their mind which was making them to stay on the task, but at the same time it was also not giving them the right to make a mistake. I believe every child deserve to have an opportunity to make the mistake and learn from them. But when we punish them and when we create kind of a fear in them, they might stay on the task, but at the same time they won't be learning from their mistakes. So that is why it is very important to have those kind of the conversation and see that if it's working out well or not.
Yeah, that's a really insightful answer. Okay, so we're having some comments come in. As we do so, if anybody else has questions, please feel free to leave them in there for Ansa. I will read them out as we go. So if there's anything you're curious about, please do ask. Another question that I had for you was when it comes to creating those classroom management plans. You've already talked about how you create sample plans. But what happens in the workshops once they make their own plans? And is there any kind of communication about that afterwards as well?
I believe that the situation and the context of every classroom is very different. When students are coming to the school, they are coming with a lot of their personal challenges as well, and a lot of the things which are also being backed up by the community as well. So all of them have very different experiences. So I believe no one can actually create a plan which would work for all of the kids at the same time. And I also believe that teachers do know the best context of their student, and they can take the best decisions for their students as well. So what we do, as I mentioned earlier, is that we provide them the sample plans. We let them know how it works. This is how you can create a tracking system, like you can track them in a week or maybe a month. And then we try to connect that with the rewards and the consequences. So rewards will help them to stay motivated, to stay on the task, and consequences are shaped in a way that they are not being punished physically or mentally, but they are learning from their mistakes, giving them a room to learn from their mistakes. And then on the basis of those rewards and the consequences, they can see how they are making progress and how they are showing the improvement in the incoming weeks. So after we provide them with the sample plan, we give them some time for the group work. They sit together with their peer teachers or maybe the teacher from the different schools. They discuss the ideas, then they create a plan for their own classroom. And after that, we would be just giving them some constructive feedback or some of the weaknesses of the plan which they can further work on, and some of the strengths which are really great. And most of the time, I believe the training on the corporal punishment is kind of a two learning way, because I am sharing what I have learned so far with the teachers, but at the same time, those teachers have worked in the classroom for maybe like 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So some of the times they do have very interesting insights to share from their classrooms as well, which also help me to tailor my training better for the next audiences.
Right. So we're getting a few questions that are coming in. One of which is about how, one commentator has said that, they use behavior charts in their classrooms, especially for classrooms where children are out of school or they're in underprivileged areas, to create discipline. So you've talked a little bit already about, rewards and consequences. So could you share more about what those rewards and consequences might be potentially, and what kind of environment you think that creates in a classroom?
Yeah. So I believe rewards and consequences should be varying depending upon the context of the community as well. But most of the time, reward will, there would be the levels of the tracking system as well. Like a student who has shown a very small progress in his behavior, the academic achievement would be to a specific level, and the improvement they keep showing, they will keep going up in the level, and similarly in the consequences. So we would start with a very simple reward, like if a student who is not really that good with like getting the good grades, or who is not sharing his stationery with some other student, and next day he does share it. So I believe tracking the small steps and small improvements in the behavior or academic progress, and then rewarding them on the basis of that. So if you would just tell a student, oh, you did share your pencil with the other student yesterday, and that was a great task, and it would actually help them to realize, oh, see, my teacher noticed that even a small progress I made. So maybe next day they would try to do the same. Next day they would try to get the same recognition and the compliment and the appreciation from the teacher. So it could be very simple, from maybe just like asking the whole class to clap for them. That would just help them to keep stay motivated. And it could also be like maybe writing an appreciation letter for them, or maybe just like making them the group leader, or making them the library in charge or something. So giving them a leadership position could be the highest form of the reward, because you might have seen even in our classroom, when you see there is a student who is in a leadership position, maybe like a head boy or head girl, or maybe like the assembly in charge, they would be feeling much more confident in the rest of the classroom, because they know they have been given a leadership, they understand that responsibility, and they feel that they have been recognized for the work they have been doing. So it could be from something very smaller to the taking it up toward the leadership positions as well. I believe for the consequences as well, there could be consequences, maybe like just verbally warning them if they are maybe just like showing any of the negative behavior. And then I think the best form of the consequence could be just making them write a reflection note. Okay, right. So you did make this mistake. Write a reflection note and just explain why. What did you do wrong? What was the impact of that action for your classroom, or maybe for your teacher, and for everyone around you? And then you can also write down your step, and you can decide them by yourself. Like, okay, this is something I'm going to do next time, which would help me to not repeat my mistakes. So when they decide what they are going to actually do to improve that behavior, then they will be feel more responsible toward it, and then they will be happily taking those steps to reach toward the positive behavior plan.
So what I'm hearing from you is both that on the reward side, we want to be implementing a kind of very positive discipline with the children that you're working with, and then like on the consequences side, giving them agency over their own decisions in a classroom is very, very important. So we have a few more questions coming in. One is asking you if you could perhaps expand on your work with parents a little bit, like the preliminary work that you've done, because parents are obviously like they're an incredibly important stakeholder outside the classroom in children's learning. So could you maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. I would, first of all, I would really like to acknowledge that we haven't done that much of intensive work with the parents yet. We are going in that direction. We have created like the couple of the training plans for the parent, but I think even for the parents, whenever we are designing anything, any training or any material for them, it is very important to have that research where you could actually understand the context of the parents, the context of the community as well, to see what kind of the traditions, what kind of the protocols, what kind of the systems are already set in that community, and then what can you add to it. Maybe it would start from just leading a very soft and gentle conversation with them, maybe having like multiple awareness sessions with the parents, and then letting them know, okay, see, like this is how negatively it's impacting your kid. And then because at the end of the day, I believe we all want the improvements in our children. Maybe we all want improvements in our students, but the methods we are using to make that kind of the room for the kids, that could be the wrong. And that is something we can help them to figure out. See, this is what we have been doing, and this is where it can lead to.
Right. Exactly. So parents obviously like we're trying to work with them steadily as well. Madi has pointed out that we also have resources for caregivers. Um, sorry, I'm just reading comments as I'm talking. So okay, so you've been talking about how like there's a paradigm shift as teachers have also there's like a cyclical nature to corporal punishment. Teachers experience corporal punishment, so they're also kind of implementing that in their own classroom. So how do you go about in a session or in your interactions with teachers trying to change that mindset that corporal punishment is effective? You've mentioned this a little bit before, but maybe you could expand. How do you do that while keeping empathy for teachers in mind?
Um, I think most of us have faced corporal punishment in our childhood, and I think it's not about being tagging them with the right person or the wrong person, but it's more about seeing whether those actions are the right one or not. So corporal punishment has been used for so many years, it has become a part of this community. So no one actually question it that much initially, but now we have started seeing the negative impact of it, and that's why we are just trying to change our methods in the way we have been doing it. So I believe that even when a teacher says that I was being punished, or I was being hit, and that's why the next day I completed my task. And I would like to reinforce the point I stated earlier as well, that maybe it was not because at that time you realized your mistake, or you were able to say this is what I did wrong and this is how can I improve it. It was because of that fear that was coming with that corporal punishment. So most of the time, knowingly or unknowingly, when we feel like something worked out for us, we try to bring that for the next generations as well. Like we were being hit in our childhood, so we will just say that maybe that's something which worked for us, and we will just hit the kids, and that would become part of the cycle. But most of the time, it's not because we were being hit, it was because we were scared at that time. That's why we were doing it. So at the same time, I would say that even if the corporal punishment worked, even if it helped you to stay on the task, but at the same time, there is so much research being done which states that how corporal punishment could have so many negative impact on the mental health, on the physical health of the students. So if there is, on the one side, there is corporal punishment, which can help student to improve their grades or maybe just like stay on the task. But on the other hand, there is some positive alternative disciplinary method, and it can do the same thing. So wouldn't we just want to just try it out, test it in our classroom, that maybe without causing that pain for the kids, we can achieve the same result, we can get the same outcomes from the student. So I believe every classroom and every student at least deserve to have that one dry test in your classroom where you could see that actually this alternative strategy might be working as well. So why do we need to use the corporal punishment?
I think that's a really good question. I think on top of that, exactly what you're saying in terms of like having those discussions with teachers who have experienced those things themselves, when they express that they also felt fear and embarrassment around that thing, kind of gives space to reconsider what the other options might be and whether there's a way forward that doesn't have to involve all those negative emotions. So given that you've been working on this project for a while, I was wondering if you feel like you're seeing things in the broader landscape through your workshops, through other things that are happening across the country that give you hope for if the space is changing at all. Do you think the anti-corporal punishment movement is catching on? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I believe creating change and shifting mindset is a very slow process. It takes a lot of time. Whenever I go in to hold those discussion and to schedule those training with the teacher, I never go with the intention of just changing everything in a day, because I believe we have been living with those mindsets for so many years. So it would take maybe a lot of smaller steps to reach to a part where we would actually be able to understand the consequences of the corporal punishment. So I believe when I am having those kind of the conversation with the teachers, what I actually focus is on is that to create that platform for the teacher where they could discuss the thing, where they could share their ideas, where they could share feedback from their classroom, because I believe there is way too much burden on the teachers as well. They have to do so many things at the same time. They have to look at the students' behavior, they have to look at their academic achievement, but at the same time, there would be so much of the administrative work as well they will be handling in that time. So I believe they need a platform where they could talk about it, because talking is actually what makes the change. So giving them that platform where they could discuss, where they could share their perspective without being judged. They could share the examples from their classroom. They could also reflect on their own traumas from their childhood and then see if maybe it requires a little bit of the different strategy for the future. So whenever a teacher whenever we go for the training with the teachers, some of the time there would be a lot of the resistance coming from the teacher, and I feel like that is equally important as much as the agreement with the teacher is important. So most of the time there would be a teacher who would be like, no, I don't believe in this, I don't think so, there shouldn't be corporal punishment, I don't believe in the idea of the zero violence classroom. But at the end of the training they might be just leaving with having the thought, acha, maybe this is something that might work. Maybe I am even willing to try it out. So that is something I feel like that is a big win for me, to having to even create that flexibility in teachers' mind to maybe just like going for applying a different approach for the same thing. So that is how I see it.
And that's very encouraging to hear, and I agree. I think that those platforms for teachers are incredible. And the way that you're describing them as well means that you're leading with that empathy and with that kindness, and that gives teachers that space to speak as well. I'm curious also about maybe how the group work goes as a result of that. Like, does that usually happen after the discussion? Is that useful to have them work in groups? Does that give them a sense of community at all?
So most of the time we go from starting it from the smaller to the bigger. So we when we go in initially for the training, we try to share the research and the data on how does it actually affect the mental health and the physical health of the kid. And there also have been so many dropouts from the schools which are being caused by the use of the corporal punishment, and there is so much of the research being done on that as well. So even for the group work as well, I believe trainings should never be the one way. It should never be in the lecture form. There should always be the room for the communication. There should always be the room to engage with each other and learn from your peers as well. Maybe a teacher in one school is using a completely different strategy, and teacher in other school is using the corporal punishment. So maybe they will be able to relate with each other much more than they can relate with me, because they both are the one who are on ground there. They are the one dealing with the students within the classroom. So I believe group work is just kind of giving them an opportunity to share their ideas, to share their perspective, but at the same time learn from each other. At the same time, maybe they would just work collaboratively on a lesson plan, or maybe they would just work collaboratively on a classroom management plan, and then they will come up with something very smart. So I believe our teachers, they are really well equipped. They do have a lot of the resources. They do have a lot of the knowledge and the experiences which I might not have even. So I think they can add so much value to every conversation we are holding with them. So just giving them that space and where they could talk openly about it, where they could brainstorm, they could share their ideas and the perspective. I think that is the most important thing.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Okay, and so we're coming to the end of our time, so I only have one question left for you, which is that what do you think parents and teachers or other young people, young professionals, or other professionals like yourselves can do to help end corporal punishment in their own communities?
I think we can start small. We can start by taking just one step at a time. Like if we are a teacher, we can just see if I would really like, I cannot resist it. I know we are short on the time, but I would really like to just share one example from one of the trainings I have had. So, I was having this training in one of the school, and the teacher shared that one time there was this one student in my classroom, and she didn't bring her notebook, and I was just taking the class, and I had so much of the burden already on my shoulders, and I was just like, I scolded her immediately, and I was like, why didn't you complete your work, and why do you keep coming up with the excuses? And the moment I did it, she started crying. And when she was crying, I felt really, really bad, and I felt guilty. And later, I just took her out of the classroom, and I tried to ask her, okay, what actually happened? Is everything all right with you? I literally apologized for the way I talked to her. And then she did share, actually, I'm coming from a family, we don't have enough financial resources, and my parents could not afford to buy me a notebook. That is the reason I had this very untidy and the smaller notebook. So that teacher herself reflected on that experiences, and she herself shared that that was something which made me realize that actually I should not be just going for completely hitting the kid without even asking for the reason. It's very important sometimes to ask for the reason. Okay, you are not completing this task. What is the actual reason? Do you have so much of the work to do after you go back to home? Because students in our schools are coming from very different and varying communities. Sometimes they might have to go for a job after coming to the school. Sometimes they might have to help their mother in the kitchen. So there is so much of the burden. They're coming with their own traumas and the challenges. So we need to have that kind of empathy and understanding so that we could actually understand the reason and then see what can we do to actually help them. Because I believe at the end of the day, whether we are a teacher, we are parents, or we're just a student or anyone, we all want improvement in the academic achievement and the behavior of our kids. We might be just using the wrong strategy, we might be just using the wrong method. We need to work on that. But at the end of the day, end goal is the same for all of us. So we can see how can we all come together, sit together, and just work for a solution which is also good for our kids and which also like safeguards them, provide them like a safe and the nurturing learning environment. So that is something I believe.
Yeah, I think that's really important to re-emphasize as well, that everybody is working together to try and make the best for the kids that they're working for and with. So thank you very much, Ansa, for your time. We've got 1 minute left. I don't think I can see any more questions. So we'll end it there. But thank you, Ansa, so much for your time and for your insights. I think it was a really useful conversation.
Thank you so much, Amal, for your time, and thank you everyone who joined. And I'm looking forward to have many more such conversations. And please do reach out to us if you have any such query or if you want to work with us in any capacity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon.
Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.